Guys, what's a good sign that a woman is just using you? Pretty much the same as when any person is just using you. The relationship feels unbalanced and unequal, with you giving more than you are receiving. In a good relationship, friendship, whatever, both people are giving what they want to give without coercion and both feel adequately rewarded for it. Sometimes one person needs more, sometimes the other, but it evens out over time. When you feel like you're being coerced into giving more than you really want, whether that's with force or emotional manipulation, or whatever, you're being used, and you'll eventually resent it. This kinda reminds me of a quote I read somewhere: a good relationship is 60-40, with each person trying to be the one giving 60%. Yeah, this is a great way of thinking about it. All these answers about food here, but I've had a friend for years who was in a worse financial situation than me, and I'd be buying her food when we go out, and event tickets and more expensive gifts. But she'd cook for us when we hung out at her house, and made me handmade gifts. Now she has a better paying job, and after her first paycheck, she tried to buy me a thing I mentioned wanting a while back. I know I contributed more financially, but she contributed the same, if not more, in terms of emotional support, so I think it's a good friendship. Does she ever ask you how you're doing more than superficially, or seem interested in what's going on with your life? More like, when she asks how you're doing, does she respond to or even remember any specific things you tell her about? There's a big difference between asking how someone is doing because you actually care, or because you just want something. I had a friend who I talked to daily for over a year who very rarely checked up on me, even when I clearly stated I wasn't doing alright. The only time she did check up on me was when she was having a rough time herself and wanted support. Eventually I just slowly withdrew from her, and even uninstalled Snapchat, our main source of communication, unfortunately, without telling her. Now on the other side, I have one friend who I talk to very rarely, but she will frequently, maybe every month or so, shoot me a text out of the blue just asking how I'm doing with life and all. She seems genuinely interested, and tends to call back to the last times she checked on me to see if I've improved worse, and since then, it's not much, but she definitely makes me feel like I'm worth something, and it's definitely the best trait a human can display. Anytime you try opening up, you're acting off character, selfish, an ass, etc. It's usually the typical pathetic manipulation people pull to make you feel bad for either standing up for yourself or just trying to be you. I guess this behavior depends on how far into the relationship you are with those types of people. For instance, in several of my own interactions with people that eventually ended up using me, they were very keen on making me feel comfortable opening up and being vulnerable to establish that kind of connection and desire for more of it. Then, much later on, when I was sufficiently hooked, did they start with the negative reactions and manipulation. Your issues aren't worth talking about, but she will unload all of hers on you. Amen. Got out of a long relationship that turned into this just 6 months ago. Would sit and moan, whinge and kick off about the most infinitesimal things for hours, but when even serious issues came up in my life, like my brother attempting suicide, her response was, well, he's an asshole anyway. I wonder if people like that are missing some kind of empathic capability and are secretly psychopaths. I dated someone like this too, and she'd have absolutely no problem going on about her university gossip as if it was the end of the world. But then whence did I ask when I gave her an update on the funeral arrangements of my grandfather? Never did get her to explain that one to me, so I assume she didn't know either. Absolutely. She often accused me of having no empathy because I was very calm and level-headed, despite the fact that I work with disabled kids, which requires a lot of empathy. She had no real concern for anyone unless it was to maintain public image, so to speak. No issues putting on others, having family members help her out doing things she basically couldn't be bothered to do herself. No issues not paying her fair share of the bills and doing none of the housework, despite being very well paid, a lot more so than me, and working one less day a week than I do. A complete lack of empathy or care for anyone for herself, and a pathological liar. Not to mention generally had nothing nice to say about anyone, and always felt the need to try and put me down, dismiss me, take me down a peg to make herself feel better. Maybe narcissistic personality disorder. Something she again accused me of having simply because I'm not insecure. She doesn't act that interested when you are interested. Flirting. Contacting her. But when you stop, suddenly she is very interested and contacts you a lot until you act interested again. The cycle then repeats. Just with HY. Edit O asking why does one does V. Some people only want your attention and aren't really interested in you. They only want to feel important or wanted by someone else. You don't miss me. You just missed the person who loved you so much. You didn't have to love them back. Morty, Rick and Morty. One-sidedness. When she expects you to do things that she wouldn't do herself. Have had people tell me I can't be there for you in any way, shape, or form. But I don't want you to leave, Anne. For the double whammy. I can't handle you leaving right now. You're making me angry that you brought up your issues. You can't come to me for things like that. You knew I was upset. All while crying sobbing to make you feel bad. Edit I forgot an important sentence. You're being so selfish. If that's not being used, I don't know what is. I understand that people go through difficult times. And that sometimes it is difficult to help other people through issues when you have your own. But if you truly care about that person, you make time. That's what a friendship or relationship is. A friendship relationship is a give and take. If all you're doing is giving and all they're doing is taking, you're being used. Regardless of the excuse. Reminds me of a saying I heard a few months ago on the internet. Givers be mindful of your limits, because the takers don't have any. Edit and for those of you who will argue oh you just don't understand. Yes, I do. I have been at the bottom of the deepest well, on half a dozen different meds to keep me sane. When a friend of mine came to me needing help and you know what? My issues didn't even come into play. They were there for me when I needed it, so I'm there for them when they need it. That's how it works. We are both doing better now thanks to each other. If you can't heal with your friend, then they are not your friend. That's awful. The only time that point is valid is in case of a medical, physical or mental emergency. But if that other person is all about take, it's only a matter of time before you reach a breaking point. I had a girl tell me she only talks to a guy because he buys her food when she asks. This guy was my friend and was very interested in her. I hope you told your friend, or at least convinced her to say something. Lost a friend of 8 years telling him I literally caught his girl cheating on him. It was his first girlfriend and she could do no wrong. She left him like a month after for a different dude than the one I caught her cheating with. I reached out to him after, but he blamed me for causing trouble between them. You did your due diligence. Some people need to burn themselves before they stop touching the stove. Never stick your dick in stovey. She never calls you by your name, and you find out you're labeled free food in her phone. Damn, that would hurt real bad. Maybe they were keeping food wrongfully imprisoned. Free food right sick here foodism. I was dating a girl who said she was too busy to go on a date on Saturday, and that she was only free on Tuesdays. She also said that she wanted to date other guys while dating me. She later admitted that she was cycling boyfriends through the week for free food. I dropped her like a bag of moldy tangerines. Infinite food glitch. Not patched still works 2021. She's in desperate need of a lung transplant and is always complimenting you about what nice lungs you have and making offhanded comments about how you don't use your lungs much and could probably do okay without them. Sounds like you're wasting your breath with her. A girl once called me her happy pill, a nickname her therapist created, cause I genuinely made her life so much better, but she cheated on me anyway. My friend told me that you only take a pill when you need it, and I've lived by that and use that as a filter for all my relationships. Dated 2 women whose therapists said I was a good person to have in their lives and that I was a positive stabilizing presence. One cheated on me, other one ditched me. Good times. Good times. There are no signs big enough what will be visible through rose tinted glasses. I missed all the signs until she literally said I'd leave you if we are not rich. Well, at least there wasn't many ways of interpreting that one. Honestly, some guys would stay after that, lol. Be glad at least that woke you up. You can say I love you for your money and some guys will hear she loves me because I'm so smart and ambitious. She's always making posts telling her friends where you took her for dinner, birthday, holidays, vacation and what gifts you've given her, but never once does she say anything about any unique qualities she finds attractive in you. Oh, I can answer this one. When asking you for something, time, money, physical effort, if you say yes, she will almost always and immediately look for something else to ask you for that is related. For example, can you stop and pick up those hair things for me? I say yes, okay. Can you also stop by the shop next door and get me that thing I like? This kind of things isn't a big deal on occasion, but when it's a repeating pattern, it's a red flag. She will point out how much she ducks you and how it's for you, will treat most of your interests with disdain or indifference, doesn't ever really care what you have to say. When you attempt to point out any inequality in the relationship, she will get extremely defensive and attack you for being selfish and tell you need to be more supportive, giving a real man. The last one I think is a red flag that is extremely obvious, yet many people don't realize it. The moment anyone says anything along the lines of a real man would, or be a man or anything similar, you can be damn sure this person is emasculating you in order to manipulate you. Period. As soon as you hear anything like that, run. If you feel like you're being used and you can't have the conversation about it with her, she acts really nice for a while, then asks for money and weed. When you say no, she turns mean, lol. I'm not a man, but I've known too many not so great women and have had guy friends used by women. So I think I can chime in here a little. She never wants to listen to your complaints, but that's all she does herself. She asks about your bank account and your job often and says she's just wondering. She gets unreasonably mad when you forget a holiday. She makes deals with you using her body. If you buy me this, I'll suck your dick in the car. She lies constantly about her own financial situation or personal relationships. She always wants to hang out with a specific friend of yours. She doesn't thank you for things, but rather expects them. She manipulates you by threatening to withhold sex until she gets her way. She only says I love you when you give her something or do something for her. She never pays for anything herself. She guilt trips the life out of you. She is unreasonably, explosively defensive when you voice your concerns regarding the relationship. If your girls is doing any of these, find a new girl. If you and your partner do this for mutual, well-intended fun, then there's of course no problem. It's when one person uses it specifically to get what they want as a manipulation tool that I find it to be a serious issue. You should never have to earn sex unless that's a D's thing that you've both discussed and consented to beforehand. When you realize you are there for her more than they are for you. She uses her emotions and body to get what she wants from you. Makes you feel like you need to spend more time, money on her with her. She doesn't understand the word no. If she has other men in her life in whatever capacity, but you're not allowed to even speak to another woman, even an established platonic friend, without her flipping her shit, you are nothing to her but a source of drama and validation. Run, do not walk away. Girl is using my body and he doesn't see it. She only reaches out to him when she's single. Nothing ever comes of it, as she will find excuse after excuse to not actually meet up. Then when she gets a new boyfriend, she ghosts him unless something goes wrong and she needs a shoulder to cry on. Guys, if she only reaches out to you when she's hurt or vulnerable, she doesn't want you, she wants sympathy and knows you'll give it to her. Edit. And to be clear, this isn't an exclusively girl thing to do. Guys can be guilty of this too. Edit too. And if you were in this situation and hung on only because you thought you'd get sex relationship out of it, that's nice guy incel behavior. If you hang around for a reason that isn't I genuinely care about this person in a non-romantic context and would keep doing this if there was no sexual romantic desire, then that isn't you being the good guy. You don't want them. You want the idea of them that you've built in your head. It's possible you're both wrong. When she flirts with you all the time and also everyone else and asks you to come over to do complex electrical work and says she'll take you out to dinner and you agree because you like the work and like being around her, but she brings her kids along and ignores you the entire time. Then when you're not around her, she never texts or calls and just waves at you when you pass her at work every day, making no effort to talk to you whatsoever. And when you try to talk to her, she gives you short answers like yeah, ducules. They contact you when they need something. I don't know if it counts, but when she takes a lot of time to text back most of the time, but as soon as you invite her to a really good place where she won't have to pay for anything, she is suddenly faster than Flash to respond and now answers quick, as long as the topics are about going to said place. When trying to ask you for something, they start their question with the phrase, hey, you should insert thing they want for me, when it's never their fault.